just for a change, my project's taking forever. And within that project, it requires 7 veneered panels. Now I managed to get my hands on some really nice quilted veneer. It's also called curly or tiger stripe. Let's go with quilted. And as it's so nice, I thought it'd look really, really good as a sunburst pattern. And just like me, it just makes things more complicated. This means though that this pattern is going to have to be repeated on all 7 panels. You'll probably see where this project might be leading from this layout. I needed to make sure that the quilting pattern was orientated properly on every single piece and in the same direction, so that hopefully it'll achieve this spiral. I wanted to get started, so I went and found a protractor. I started trying to draw this out, and that seemed like a lot of maths, so yeah, I cheated. I want to say I'm sorry, but I'm not. Good old lasers. This is the Ortur Laser Master 2. I've had it for about 3 years, and I've had hundreds and hundreds of hours out of it. The only problem I ever had with it was me. I'd already made the frame, so I thought I'd lay them out to see how it looks. Now, the good thing about veneer work is it doesn't need expensive tools, but it does need sharp tools. Have spare blades. Seriously, don't be afraid of changing your blades. That is some beautiful quilting on that veneer. I believe it's man-made, but I'm not 100%. I start off by measuring the length of the piece that I need, and then start to cut out the triangle. As you can see here, this is the part where it's important to get the quilting perpendicular to the centre line of the triangle that you're cutting. The result of this is that as each piece is laid out onto the board, the quilting will actually start to curve round the board. Like I said, it's really important to make sure these triangles are in the right direction, otherwise it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. And so this means that I have to be extra careful with these sharp blades. I use a double bevel cut technique, but that means that each piece has to be slightly bigger than it actually needs to be. I'm marking the corners and just cutting through it gently with the knife. I use the Swan Morton 01 blades. They're a bit more rigid. I use this Tesso low-tack tape to stick the pieces down to the board. I use the low-tack tape because when you peel it off, it doesn't pull half the grain with it. It's important to keep this piece in place whilst you mark out and cut the next piece. Any movement and you're going to end up with gaps. I do find I go through a lot of this tape. Not great, but it's a fantastic tape and it does its job. It's not cheap though, 10 quid a roll. And this project used nearly 2 of them. Quilting in general, and very much so on this veneer, looks different from different angles. And for this to work and look right, I have to cut every piece in the same direction. A slip up here it would look ridiculous in the final piece, so I spent a lot of time putting bits of tape and marking the direction with the pencil. I use the pencil on the tape and not directly on the veneer because it's just so much easier to take the tape off than it is to rub pencil off the veneer. So I suppose this is a good time to talk about the big elephant in the room here. Not me. That really, really sharp knife that I'm holding in my hands. These blades will travel across a metal ruler before you can even blink, and you know they're going to end up straight in your hand or your finger. These are surgically sharpened. They're just not sterilised, so you can probably expect a trip to A&E, and if you're lucky, a nice infection. Seriously, take your time when you're cutting through veneer. It behaves differently in different directions. I've overlapped the 2 pieces of veneer here, taped them all down, and I'm actually taping down the ruler Because of the length of this piece, I don't want this metal ruler shifting whilst I'm cutting. So this first cut, I'm doing it so slowly. You'll see through this video that I'm doing a lot of cutting, and to make the video not 10 hours long, I've had to speed up that cutting. I take lots of gentle, light passes, and the cuts become out a lot more accurate. Once you've actually cut through, you then need to separate the pieces and remove all the offcuts. I then trim the end to the correct length. And then lay it in place, hopefully without any gaps, and tape it together. When I'm marking these pieces out, like I said earlier, I'm being very careful that the veneer is in the right orientation, and I mark the widest point at the top, and then I draw a perpendicular line all the way down to where the point's going to be, and then slice away. On some of these cuts, I'm taking 5 or 6 passes just to make sure I'm not going through too hard and tearing the grain. When you're actually cutting along the grain, if it would, you'd be rip sawing, but we're cutting along the grain. The knife can really easily follow the grain, and the grain on this veneer, I don't think there's a straight section on it. Lots of light passes, and I ended up with a nice clean cut. Okay, so we're a few more pieces in now. I'll cut another 2 pieces, and I'm just laying them over the top to make sure that they're the right size and bigger than we actually need. I then mark out to cut the end off, and just use a ruler to gently cut through the veneer. I was starting to develop a technique by this point, and same with all the other pieces. I just made sure it was taped down properly. Like I said before, if that moves when you're cutting, it's going to be a mess. You're just going to have to start that piece again. You'll have gaps everywhere, so just tape it down. If you tape it down properly, it won't move. Before cutting the next ones, I decided to flip it over and just remove any excess tape. Also put some more tape on the backs where I'm just about to cut, just to keep things in place as discussed before. When I'm cutting veneer, the first pass I normally have the knife a lot more upright, and that allows me to just do a very gentle score, and it's less likely to follow the grain of the veneer. With each then pass, I try to lower the knife a bit more, so as when it's coming through at the final pass, it's almost like a guillotine slicing it. By this point, I was able to secure it down with a long strip along the whole join. Made life a bit easier, less tape. I'm sick of it being stuck to absolutely everything, including the bottom of my feet. Now this must be getting a little bit repetitive now, so how about a time lapse? Ready, go. I wish I could work at this speed. I was pretty pleased to get to this point on this big board. Final piece, just been stuck down, overlapping, sticking the ruler down and cutting exactly the same as I have done in all the other ones. You've got to remember here that you're cutting through 2 pieces and you're not going to get through in 2 passes. It regularly takes me 6 or 7 passes to cut through 2 layers of veneer cleanly. Don't get me wrong, I could get through in 2 passes, but the tear out would be horrendous. And we're looking for a clean join. Peeling out all the offcuts and then just taping it down. Very pleased to get this one done. And the quilting is curving round as I wanted it to. Now onto the next board, slightly smaller, well 0.618 percent smaller actually, funnily enough. I started off the same way as I did on the first board, cutting out the first piece, measuring and marking the corner and cutting that. I laid it in place and was really trying to decide whether I was going to do it the same way as before or measure and then cut all the pieces out and then cut them into each other. I decided on the latter. I used a Japanese square to work out the width I need to cut. I just lay it out and then I put 5mm either side of the laser engraved lines. So here I am on the second piece, using this straight of the ruler, and then I can work out how wide, the widest that piece needs to be. I realised at this point that I was going to get in a mess really quickly if I didn't start labelling things. So I just marked out on the board each piece, gave them the number, and as I cut the pieces, I just marked the number on them. It was now time to cut all the other pieces out. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch it again. Have another time lapse. Ready? Go. Whilst this is going on, let's talk about knife blades. For what we are interested in, we either have single bevel or double bevel blades. If you want a seamless joint, you need to make sure your edges are all 90 degrees. So you need to make sure your knife is at the correct angle when you cut. Single bevels come as ambidextrous and handed. The key thing is they have one flat edge. With the piece you want to cut underneath a straight edge and the knife flat up against the straight edge, you'll get a clean 90 degrees. Now, the knife I'm using is double bevel, which means if I want a 90 degree edge, I have to tilt the knife over. For this project though, I want the cut lines to be beveled so that the sunburst rays look a bit more obvious. I'm cutting through both pieces at the same time and having the knife upright, which gives me a bevel on both pieces. Leftovers aren't wasted, they're all labelled. I laser engraved the Greek letter phi, or phi if you're a mathematician. This symbol represents everything about what I'm making here. Before I start cutting this, I thought I'd show you the camera angles I'm going for and see what I've got to get my arms around. I'm trying to up my editing game, shall we say. Let me know how you think I'm doing. Now, the idea of this circular piece in the corner is twofold. One, it covers up the mess that is the tiny points of the rays coming into the centre. And it gives me somewhere to put the piece's name and WoodScrape. I've tried lots of different tools to try cutting circles through veneer. I've tried loads. It's not easy. The wood grain fights you in every direction. If it's cross grain, it's hard to get through. If you're going with the grain, the blade doesn't follow the circle, it goes with the grain. It's a real pain, but you've got to stick with it and go gently. Lots and lots of passes. Eventually, you'll get the piece cut and it'll slot right in, hopefully. Lastly, I remove any excess tape and then just put a single layer over the top, mainly to protect it until I press it. I always make sure I fold a piece over the edges as well to stop any damage, breakout. Spent so long on this, I don't want to damage it through something silly. So I thought I'd just carry on with this without filming it, but then came across a happy coincidence, call it a happy mistake, not even a mistake. So these smaller pieces, as you can see, are quite small, and I wasn't really looking forward to cutting these out because they're tiny, and this veneer is proving to be pretty tough. Also, the time it takes forever to cut these out. So I was just about to get started, then I noticed the pieces from yesterday when I was cutting the circle out of the centre for the logo. That's what the name, sorry. And I found the pieces that I cut out. And that will work for that one. And this one will work for that. So that's just made life a lot easier. Just a good example of showing don't throw away the pieces you cut out just yet. And try and remove things as neatly as possible. It can help. Anyway, onwards. In my other video about Marquetry, I mentioned that you can't veneer one side of a panel. The substrate will warp and bow really badly. You have to veneer both sides. So for this project, as the frame of this project is made out of oak, I'm doing the back panels of each of the panels in oak. These slices here all came off of a stack, so they're even slices all the way through. That means I can book match them. As you've seen here, I've opened them up like a book, and now I need to find a common place on each of them that I can cut in a nice, clean, straight edge. As you can see there, there's a lot of tear out on that edge, so I have to do it to both of them. But by doing them the same distance in, they should match. I'm in a different workshop here, and this is where I'd left my Marquetry ruler. You can see here, this ruler has a fold-up shield, just to protect your fingers. It's also got a rubber bottom so it doesn't slide around. Great ruler, not the cheapest thing, but really, really good. As with different species of wood, you'll find that the grain pattern is different. Things like maple and stuff have got a very tight grain, and they cut really nicely, especially, you know, the veneer does. Oak though, it's tough, really tough, and it's got really coarse open grain. It tears out really easily, especially with a knife. Now you see here, I'm going to cut this now, but I need the piece I'm saving to be underneath the ruler to get the cleanest cut, so I'm just rotating it here so I can do this. I'm going to count the cuts this time to give you an idea of how many strokes it does take to get through this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 slices to get through that cleanly. If I could have got through in less, but it would have torn out, it would have ripped pieces out, and I wouldn't have got that join. Now I'm putting the two sections together. You see how we're getting the book match pattern that we wanted. Now I needed to take this together, and my pink Tessa tape wasn't sticking. I hadn't brought my smaller white gum tape reel with me, but what I did have access to was this gum tape. It's paper, it's for parcels. The problem with it is it really sticks a little bit too much, which makes it really difficult to remove. Well, not difficult, but you really have to sand it a lot or scrape it. But here I am, unaware, slapping it on. Go on, and about a piece all down the middle. There we go. That won't be hard, will it? No. Perfect. Best way to get it down to the correct dimensions is lay the board over and use that as your reference to slice down the sides. These boards are going to be recessed in by 5mm into the framework, so if the edge isn't totally tidy, it really doesn't matter. And that's sort of shown here. If you count, I cut through in 1, 2, 3, putting quite a bit of pressure down on that knife there. Look, I got through in 3. That edge won't be tidy though, but because it's the edge of the panel, it doesn't matter. I have actually planned for the grain direction on the back panels to be pointing certain directions. I've marked on the boards with an arrow so that when I come to glue up, I know which way to lay the panel on without questioning. Otherwise it will stand out, although it is on the back, so it will never be seen, but you know, oh no. The larger of these panels was too big for me to press at home. I don't have anything big enough to deal with that, and luckily I have access to some more industrial equipment, so I decided to take advantage of that and press them all there at the same time. All the other panels I could have pressed at home easily by myself, just using boards either side to sandwich them, and as many clamps as you can possibly get on there. I got all the boards laid out, organised, really organised. As I said, things had to go in specific directions. I used the white gum tape all around the oak veneer, and the glue I'm using is Cascamite. It's a resin based glue, and it's got a long open time, about an hour, and it takes about 6 hours to dry in this time of year, about 18 degrees. Also, by pressing the veneer here, it meant I could take advantage of my friend's hands. They helped me a lot. Thank you. The glue's rolled on. Always roll it onto the substrate, the wood, not the veneer. I then place the substrate down onto the veneer, and then roll her onto the other side of the substrate, and then place the top veneer on top, and then moisten that tape and stick it down. Now, I'm sorry, but I forgot to press record when I was putting it in the press. But here you can see the pressure it's at, and this is me releasing it. It's about to make you jump. And it comes down, and this is the moment of truth. Has it all gone wrong, or is it alright? This one went alright. Well, pretty good anyway. You'll see later. The brown gum packing tape that I used, I really wouldn't use it on anything that I wasn't prepared to use 120 grit on to remove it. And the only veneer I'm prepared to use that on is oak. It then actually used a fair bit of 180 grit afterwards. It's the only veneer I think you could get away with that much abuse on. I certainly wouldn't be using it on the front. There's a few issues. You'll remember I used pink tape on the front, running long lengths down and covering it up. That was fine until the veneer touched the glue, which is water-based, and it starts to absorb the moisture and it starts to curl. And the pink tape was struggling. I think in future, before pressing, I'll replace the pink tape with the white gum tape. The result of this is a few of the pieces overlapped instead of butt jointing up. Not a lot, tiny amount, so you'll see here I'm just slowly working them down, and you'll notice the direction I'm going. It's the grain direction, not the direction of the curl. Yeah, the grain direction's going the length of these pieces. Also, the pink tape seemed to have made a small depression into the surface when it was pressed. So I was just using the cabinet scraper here to get that out, and then it's 180 grit, and I did a 240 grit after that on this. I had to be very careful though. I don't want to go through it. This project isn't at the point of having a final finish put on it, but it is going to have shellac sanding sealant, and it needs a protective coat, so I put that on now. It really is quite a satisfying part of the project, isn't it, seeing that grain really appear as it is on the front. Very satisfying. The camera doesn't show it brilliantly, but it really does make that curl pop. I'm also really pleased how the orientation of the curl has made the pattern go round the pieces as I wanted them to. These are all the other smaller pieces, all getting the same treatment. So this is the end result. Apart from having wax applied to it and that being buffed off, these panels are done, and I really couldn't be happier with them. They're fantastic. Now, if you stuck this far in the video, how about a little treat, a little sneaky peek about where these panels are going? If you haven't worked out already, it's all to do with the golden ratio, golden mean, golden section. Keep an eye out for the video this project's for. It might even already be released. Have a look at my channel. So, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. And YouTube, they reckon you'll like these next 2 videos.